Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Crew First Culture podcast. This is Jeremy again, and I have some great news today. I've brought some friends, so it's not going to be just me rambling on by myself. I've got some good friends that have got a great message to share, and I am really looking forward to this conversation that I'm sure I have an idea of some directions it may go, but I honestly don't have any clue on exactly how great it's going to be because we are just going to shoot it from the hip and go at it. But today I've got from Yoga for First Responders, I've got Olivia Mead and Eric Brenneman. How are you guys doing?
Morning, Jeremy. Doing great today. Thanks for having us on the show, man.
You bet. So just a brief kind of touching on how I was introduced to you both. I was luckily and blessed, or whatever you want to call it, be a part of the tactical resiliency team with or training with Rick George, and I've talked a lot about that on past episodes. So if you've listened to anything, you've definitely heard a lot of kind of how I feel about all that. But Erica I'm sorry, my wife's name is Erica, so I might have an issue with
this.
it.
I'm fine. I'm fine with it. I'm secure enough. It's all good.
Eric and Olivia's Yoga for First Responders is a big piece of that program that we are a part of. And so I have met Eric in person a few times and had some great conversation, especially in Atlanta with him. Olivia was playing the role of mother and had to stay home with their young one. And so this is literally the first time I have actually met her, at least virtually. So very excited to have you both on. Just the knowledge and expertise that you both carry is very incredible to me. I'm learning more and more about all of these things, and it's so important the more I learn to share and spread the word of what you all are trying to do. So just kind of to get that out there.
Yeah.
Let's get, I guess, just throw the grenade out and just say, so Yoga for First Responders, what is the purpose of it? What is the story of it? And what are you trying to accomplish with it?
Yeah, so you said it perfectly with grenade. Let's throw the grenade out there. Word yoga. Everyone's like, and so before you turn off the episode, everyone go to sexier things. Hear us out. So most people, when they hear the word yoga, are immediately going to think of stretching, flexibility, zenning out, relaxation, yoga pants, weird positions, hippies, soccer moms. I've heard it all. And I totally get it because that's the marketing of yoga in the West is, and do you know why? And I don't blame them. It's because yoga is $1 billion, multi-billion-dollar business. And they're going to continue to market to the demographic that is going to shovel out $150 for yoga pants. So God bless them. But unfortunately, the populations that really need the authentic benefits of yoga, such as military, first responders, will then become isolated from the practice because of the marketing, which is not toward them, right? And so that's why we get this bad rap with yoga. The true intention, the original intention of the yoga practice, which started 5,000 years ago, no joke, okay, was to train warriors. And it was to train warriors to be elite, to have mental mastery above their opponents, to be able to be calm and centered. And this tool, the body, the nervous system, the brain, those are all tools that, that are so powerful that if we don't discipline and train them, that they will take over us. They will master us. We'll be victims to our own mind. We'll be victims to our own body. And you guys probably already know what I'm talking about. Aches and pains in the body, the mental spirals, not being able to sleep, stuck in a hypervigilant state. That's your tools owning you. And it makes you completely what would be the opposite of a high performer, a low performer, or just, just someone who is not in control of their own system, right? So the original intention of yoga is mastery of the mind and optimal functioning of the entire system, all the systems that you have. And so yoga for first responders takes yoga back to that original intention, specifically to the cultures who need it. And they need it because in your profession, your nervous system, your brain, your body takes a beating every day. Even if you don't actually have a call or a quote unquote tough call, when you go to work, you're on. Anything could happen. That is extremely stressful. In fact, it is more stressful than the call itself, because when the call comes in, you know where you're going. I mean, you don't know what you might find, but you have an idea, you're focused, you're in flow. But before that, when there's, it's the unknown, that's the most stressful. So it's not like we're teaching this it's not like critical incident stress management where there was a critical incident, we're going to address this. It's not in case something really bad happens. No, this is a fundamental skill that someone should have just to enter this profession. Anyway, that is a long-winded way as you can see, I get fired up about this, but yeah, so I'm going to stop talking, but that's basically it.
Yeah.
And that's that's funny because I've heard stories about you and that fire, but I've not seen it, but I definitely have seen the same from Eric. Eric is the very unassuming person in that group of giants, that we are training with Rick and his crew. But I would honestly say he's the scariest person in that group. and most of the people in that class figured that out pretty quickly as well. Yeah. And so, Eric, I mean, do you have anything to add on to that to kind of to bring home the point any more?
Yeah, absolutely. So to the point of being the scariest person in the room, it was kind of funny before we started our last training in Atlanta, just listening to the students as they were coming in, and I walked into the room and one of the guys I could hear him, they're like, oh shit, that's the yoga guy. So I heard it. And so I came in, I was like, what is that supposed to mean? I'm the yoga guy. Like, well, I've seen the videos and it's going to be the hardest part of this whole class. And they're like,
oh, your secret's out now.
and I was like, how'd you know I was the yoga guy? And they're like, well, because of the beard. So I was like, yes, the beard precedes me, which I'll take. So no, Olivia's absolutely right. So, and Jeremy right too. I do have a passion for this. So I spent 13 years in the fire service, was part of my peer support team on the department that I was on. And quite honestly, men and women, we have got to be doing better from a mental health wellness standpoint for our brothers and sisters. And so I'm passionate about this because I want to start moving the conversation upstream from peer support, from clinical clinicians, to see if we can stop people from actually falling into the river of the downward spiral first, instead of having to put a net up at the bottom of the stream. And so what we do is all backed by literature. It's all backed, it's evidence-based, and it's all proven to be a proactive training tool. And that's the key word, is proactive training, so that we can actually train our mind, body, and nervous system to work and respond the way we want it to, versus what Olivia was talking about, responding the way it's going to if we don't train it. And so we've got it's a bold statement, but honestly, like, I've got it up on our website that when suicides are outpacing line of duty deaths by 300% and 400%, we're not doing good enough. Like, let's be blunt about it. Like, one of the things that makes us different is that we don't pull many punches. We used to, but we don't anymore. The message is very clear. We have got to be doing better as a culture to be taking better care of ourselves and those around us. And I believe this is a critical tool, which is why I'm thankful to be here with you today.
Yeah. And I think that's just a pretty good place to, I wouldn't say start, because we're already started, but to kind of continue the conversation, as you talked about that preemptive move. And, you've talked about even throwing the statement out that you want to put the critical incident stress teams and peer support teams out of business. And I truly know your heart behind that. That's not because you hate those things.
Oh,
It's because those things are in place because we haven't done our job beforehand.
right.
And that's where you are wanting to plug yourselves into to prevent those things from happening. And I think that is a great way to look at it, to truly start helping us attack these problems before we even have to deal with them. And so that's a great way to say it, really. And I know that's why I love, talking to you both, because that fire inside you, it's not just because that's the personality you have. It's because you're building it from a true passion, and you know that how important it is. So that being the case, how can you how can we do a better job of incorporating these type of things to shut some of these things down before they become problems?
Yeah. And we've been talking about this specific topic. In fact, this was what we were hoping to be our topic of our current podcast we're going to release, is training.
Okay.
Once again, God and the universe provides. And so just to touch briefly before I let Olivia respond on how we can make this part of training, is you mentioned the part of that we want to put peer support and clinicians and critical incident teams out of business. And you said it eloquently, that that's from a good place in our heart, not because we hate those people. Yeah. I'm not naive and dumb enough to actually think they will ever go out of business.
Not really.
We have a tough job. Life is going to happen. Those resources will always be there. But it goes back to your point of we can do better before people even start to need those problems. And so how can we start to institutionalize training, I think, is the crux of the issue. And I think, Olivia, you were chomping at the bit on that one.
Well, what you just asked was literally exactly, I was about to take over your podcast and to ask you a question. I'm a host now, because I was about to ask you the exact same thing that you just asked me. You two, you're still on the job. Eric spent 13 years on the job. I am not in fire service. I went through a fire academy in order to learn the job as much as I could. It was the hardest and most fun thing, I've ever done. And I did learn a lot, and I continue to ask questions, but I'm not inside. So we do the best we can to make it as easy as possible for people to access, right? So, I pride myself on never telling anyone no. Okay, the budget's not there, the time's not, let me figure it out. Let me figure this out for you. We can do it. I've taught yoga at 9 p.m. For 5 minutes at a roll call for a police department. I was teaching it, all different hours for Eric's department, trying to see what was going to make it work. We have our digital platforms now. So if there's an in-person teacher not available, they can go on the app, they can do courses. We've tried to make it so accessible. And I also hear a lot of support. Yes. Yet when it comes down to it, money, line item, time, is someone just saying yes because they know they need to? Well, I don't know what the sticking point is. And what I wanted to ask you to, and we just released a blog on our podcast called Necessity versus Demand. And this actually came from my yoga teacher who I study with via Zoom in India. I went to India, studied with him, and now I can study, with him via Zoom. And he brought this up just in general in the yoga world, is there's what we truly need to work on and train in life and everything. And then there's the sexy stuff, that we kind of default to instead. Our hose drills, fun is going into the burn tower fun. Yes, that's why you're here. That's why you're doing the job. So of course we kind of default to that. And of course there's, what I call those is the short-term urgent tactical skills that you need, right? But if you're at home on the couch on disability or had to retire early or whatever the case may be, you're not on the fire ground to do those short tactical urgent skills anyway. So I understand they're important for the job, but if you're at home, you're not doing them. Or if you're on the job and you're low functioning, low performance, then you're not doing those tactical skills great anyway. It's this catch-22. And I'm stuck we're offering it on a silver platter. We have the evidence. In fact, I'll talk about a research study in a little bit that shows you we're not bullshitting anyone here.
Yeah.
What's the deal? What is the issue that people will nod yes, oh, I love what you're doing, but won't tell their crew, get out here, we are doing yoga an hour, 1 hour or less, 30 minutes every time we're on shift. What's the problem with that?
Yeah.
I truly don't understand it. And so that's why I don't have an answer. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, you touched on the article I wrote. I wrote an article a few years back for Firefighter Nation, and the title of the article was a clickbait title, I'll be fully honest, but it basically said, is training mental resilience more important than hose drills? Because I was making the argument in that case, what has Olivia exactly said, that if we're off the job, the hose drills don't matter. Pulling a hose off the truck doesn't matter. Hooking a hydrant doesn't matter. If we're sitting at home because we haven't prepared ourselves mentally and emotionally for the job that we have to do, it doesn't matter. And so my argument is, and this is the argument that we make often, is that these kinds of trainings, this kind of skill set must be implemented from recruitment. So before they're even a firefighter in this case, through retirement. So from recruitment through retirement, because we see the same issues that, number one, are the young men and women getting into the job. They have no idea about what they're signing up for, other than it looks cool. I want to fight fire. Hanging out with the guys at the firehouse is awesome. But there's a whole other side of it that they're not prepared for, and they're never getting the training for. And then we get through the career, hopefully we can actually start to thrive through our career instead of just survive it. And then get to the end of our retirement. And now we have a whole host of new problems that are popping up, that we've lost our singular sense of identity, because for your entire life, you said, I am a firefighter. I mean, I haven't been riding the truck for 5 years at this point, and I still struggle with that, quite frankly. I mean, I do, like deep down at my core. And I know there's this saying that once a firefighter, always a firefighter, kind of like the Marine Corps statement. But at the end of the day, I'm not putting on the turnouts. I'm not hopping on the rig. I'm not in the excitement of it, right? And so I still struggle with that, even though I have a very important mission in life now, serving public safety from the mental health wellness side. And so if you're not in that world, it's why we see our brothers and sisters literally working the job until they're 65 years old, retiring and dying a year later. Like they're not, because they don't have the tools to deal with retirement then. And so if we want to get to the point of organizational change, personally, it starts with a fantastic leadership at the top. You have to have the top bought in. And then the second place it starts is down at the very, very bottom in the academy. Because if the top is bought in, then they're going to give the support they need to the academy instructors, and the academy instructors then start to instill these kinds of tools into the recruits from day one. And then obviously, so that's the first two steps. And then the third step to make this thing a go is whoever is that in law enforcement world, it's the field training officer, and the fire service world, it's whoever they're going to be with that first day out on shift, that company officer. Because if they get on the truck and the company officer says it, and we've all said it, okay, academy is great, but now you're going to learn it for real, you know? And so if that company officer that they go to out of academy says everything you just learned in academy is BS, especially that yoga, breathing, mental stuff, that young firefighter is so impressionable at that point, though, from that moment forward, they'll think, oh, this is bunk, I'm out. I don't need that junk. And so those are the three steps to actually institutionalize this. And it sounds impossible. And yet where there's a will, there's absolutely a way. Because I hang my hat on this agency, this organization, because we were talking a little bit about it. If one of our gold star partners is Chicago Police Department, for example. Chicago Police Department has mandated all 12,000 of their police officers, 12,000, have in-service training in our protocol. Meaning that if Chicago Police Department can figure out a way to train, to mandate training for 12,000 people, I hate to break it to you, small town Iowa, where I came from, you can figure it out too.
Yeah.
I mean, where there's a will, there's a way. But for our mission specifically, it goes back to that beginning. Dispelling the misconceptions of what yoga is, what it's about, how we do things differently. And then we start to implement that organizational change management from the top to the bottom, and then that middle management layer. So that's my thought. But when you're in the ground, like on the ground, boots on the ground, as a company officer, you hold a lot of power from those day-to-day trainings. You might not start to change at the very, very top and make an entire change in an organization, but on your crew specifically, day-to-day, you can be that change agent. You've had a little bit of experience with that since we met in Atlanta. And I'll also talk a little bit about Captain Mark Mikoski, who's part of our training cadre too, because he's had really good success with his crew because he understands what we're doing. And he went back, he came through our train the trainer program and took it back to his crew and started teaching his crew, not the entire department, his crew of 3 other guys, a yoga class on shift. And you know what? Those guys started asking for it. Hey, Cap, when are we going to do yoga today? Hey, Cap, we really liked last shift. Can we do it again today?
Eric Mills in Kansas.
Yeah.
And again, I want to point out, this is not like when I started this at Los Angeles Fire Department. And when I moved to Iowa from Los Angeles, some people were saying, oh, you were good here in LA, but when you go to the Midwest, they're not going to, take to this. A firefighter is a firefighter all over the country, and the needs are the same. And, so we're talking about, Mark's in Georgia, this guy, Eric Mills, is in Kansas, same thing.
Oklahoma. One of our best department is small town Henderson, Kentucky, for God's sake.
Yeah, Henderson, Kentucky's killing it. So the same thing is that Eric Mills was teaching his crew every shift, and they started asking for it because of the consistency. So they were able to feel the benefits. So Jeremy, I'd like to ask you, what are your thoughts, and how do you think this could happen?
I think I'll get into my thoughts here in a second, but I think probably one of the scariest things that Eric brought up is that first day on shift. Even if we put in all the work to get all these things in place, you're still going to have these people that are going to take a dump on it when the new people get on shift. And I hate that. And it's not confined to this. It's across the board on anything that they don't like. And so anyway, that was just like more of a soapbox moment that I just really get irritated with things like that. But as far as just me personally, so like you said, I am a station officer. I enrolled in your program as far as the what do you call basically just the subscription?
Yeah.
What's that?
It's our
online.
It's called, the official name is On Demand.
On Demand. Yeah.
Gotcha.
You can use it on demand.
So we as a crew we've done gone through a couple of your programs every shift, and just using that as a way to kind of introduce us all to it. And it started out, I just asked kind of Eric, what would be basically a first day to run everybody through. And so, we went through the breathing video to get everybody used to what you're trying to pass on as far as that goes, and then the importance of that, and then into the daily program, just a 20-minute program. That's what we did the first day, maybe the first couple of days, just to work our way into it. But I do feel like it is so important, and I do wonder how to make the big move, but that's the way that's the problem with me in my mind. I always have to gear myself back and do what Mark did and just focus on my crew, because at the end of the day, that's all I can control. So I can control that my crew does yoga or practices breathing or has a good discussion about mindfulness or segmenting or any of these things. I can control that. And so that has been a priority, absolutely, since, however long it's been since we've been in Atlanta, because it really was a game changer in my life, I would say, for sure, but especially in my journey as a firefighter and a station officer to see how truly important it is to, I'm trying to look at what you call it, the mastery of the mind, like Olivia said at first, because I can't go into any details just because it's not my experience, but I've had a very close family member here lately experience some mental issues, and it is crazy what the freaking mind can do to you. It is absolutely, it just, it's nuts. And so to be able to control those systems and use your mind to its full potential and overcome the things that we face, it's critical, and you talked about it, I think, Olivia, first, is it's not even the big calls or the bad calls or the nasty calls. I just literally talked about this last night at the volunteer department that in the town I live in. It could be the 3,000th normal, regular BS call that you ran on, but there's just something about it that hits a trigger in you. It could be a smell, it could be a voice, it could be a sight that you see. It could be anything. So you never know truly what is coming and when it's coming, and especially if you're not preparing yourself. So I really do think that, like you said, Eric, I and anybody else can only control our little circle. If you are not a decision maker for an entire department or shift, you might only have a station, or you might only have you and another new person, whatever it is, whatever your circle is, that's the influence you have. And so maybe it's just one more person, but you can push that influence out and show people how important this stuff is. We had before the trip to Atlanta, we had a pretty decent multiple family dwelling fire. And I'm not a big war storyteller, but the story behind the story is that on the way to that, radio traffic came out that there's possibly victims trapped. And I've got 2 firefighters in the back that just barely have a year on. And I could tell that both of them were getting amped up. And I didn't have the opportunity in that time because we were really close to the scene to address it. But afterwards, this is what we talked about. We talked about taking just maybe even a cycle or 2 of some type of breathing techniques to calm yourself down, because we train for these things, what you're doing, but they were actually talking themselves into doing things differently than we've always trained, just because of that excitement.
Because of the power of the mind.
Just talking, yeah. And that's where it starts, is just having that communication and doing what you can to influence those you can influence. That's my answer.
Jeremy, I had goosebumps to hearing you talk, because you are, I wish you were a firefighter in my town, because I would want, I want firefighters like you. And I think everyone should want their community public safety to have the mindset that you have. Your crew is incredibly fortunate to have you. One thing I want to say about leading, and, you're a leader, so you can, have your crew, guide your crew. I think if anyone's watching you, you are a leader. So if you don't have any, rank or pull, but someone sees you in the bay doing your yoga, that's influence. So you're influencing yourself and then whoever's watching you, right? Number 1. Number 2, to what you said with that call, I did a ride along with FDNY. I have some good friends, there that I would visit. And while I was visiting them and having dinner with them, a call came in and they asked me if I wanted to jump on. Now, what's funny about New York City, you probably think it's all, really like go, 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 go. There's so much traffic that are not going very quickly.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it was a fire. I think it was in the subway or something. So there was a little bit of amping up. And as they were, putting on their packs and stuff in the truck, one guy said to me, "I've been on for a few years, but I still get amped up no matter what." So I said, "Okay, keep putting everything on, is it okay if I, just put my hands on you for a second? And he said, yeah. So I put my hands, where the strap is here. I put my hand here and I said, breathe in as you tighten the strap, breathe into it, breathe into my hand. You keep getting ready, but you just keep breathing into my hands, right? So the point is exactly what you said. As you are gearing up and getting ready, you can simultaneously doing breath work that keeps you in control up here. It does not. Now, let me make it clear. Mindfulness does not equal slow at all.
Yeah.
So people think of mindfulness, they think of, no, mindfulness means that there is an awareness of what you are doing. There's an intention, there's an action towards that intention, and there's an awareness of what you're doing. It creates a not time connected space between stimulus and response. The only way you'll remember to do breath work and you will perform that action mindfully under stress is if you train for it. It will never happen automatically if you don't put the training in. So if someone says, all right, guys, we were really kind of spiraling on that call, and you got to make sure to be mindful next time. You got to make sure to be intentional. And they're all going to be like, yep, yes, sir. Got it. Won't happen unless you train for it. And that's what yoga is. It's the training for that stuff that there is no training for. You're told, have the warrior mindset, be more mindful, okay, great. Got it.
What does that mean?
That means, when I did police academy, and there was in our defensive tactics class, they showed these videos of a call going good, a call going not good. What's the difference, guys? Well, that officer had warrior mindset and that officer didn't. All right, have a good day. And I was like, when's the warrior mindset class? When do I get to learn that? That's the issue.
I hope you enjoyed part 1 of this 3-part series with my friends Olivia and Eric of Yoga for First Responders. Tune in next time. We'll continue this conversation in parts 2 and 3, which will be released pretty quickly together. So enjoy it. Thank you for your time. And until next time, stay humble and do work.